Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning, and that means it's Ask Me Anything with DeAnna Batdorff. I am your host and moderator, Andrea Foster. We've got a lot of amazing questions already sent in to us, so don't forget that's something you can do. You can send us anything you've got in mind leading up to when the Ask Me Anything broadcast happens, and we hold on to it and then we answer it for you. So let us just jump in because we've got a bunch. How are you doing today, DeAnna?
Well, I'm doing really good. Yeah. Feeling toasty in my lovely home. And just so everybody knows who's watching, you've got some beautiful Costa Rican artifacts back here on shelves that are shining bright in my home from my trip earlier this year. And yeah, I'm feeling really good. But I put some really special kind of pieces, some energy pieces, and chose to sit even if I have light behind me. I was like, you know what? This fabulous Cobra woman right here, she was like, you need my help today. And I have my beautiful deer, my native deer from Canada, and just some power pieces. So maybe I want to just start there and then we'll get right into these questions. But really think about what are your power pieces. Those things are so precious and so important when you are feeling like the chips are down and you're having whatever you're going through, because that could be anxiety, that could be depression, that could be how you feel about yourself, that could be all kinds of stuff. You know, I'm doubting everything just like everybody else. It's really interesting. And now we're supposed to act all normal or something, and it's not even normal yet.
Right.
Count on your power pieces. It's really important to think about that. Put them in the forefront of your home. Maybe clean your altars. You're getting ready for spring. Clean your altars. Reset your altars. What's really on your altar? Let me be honest. Sometimes I go to my altar or I'll go to pieces when I'm like dusting or doing my thing. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what is the story behind this piece? And not always is the story incredible. Or sometimes it is such a power piece story that I'm like, no wonder I've kept this all this time. So I just want to give everybody a like spring cleaning is sort of like recognizing what you're watering and what seeds do you want to sow? What do you want to hold? And just keep in mind that, you know, there's things that need to go. Spring cleaning. Things need to move on that aren't serving you. And that's not a bad thing to focus on right now. To really get down to clean, lean, fueled machine. And so, yeah, that's my inspiration for the day.
Brilliant.
I'm happy to answer these questions.
All right. So the first question we have comes from Robin. Wonders what to do for hair loss due to Hashimoto's / thyroid issues.
Okay. So I think the first thing to talk about, just overview, Hashimoto's autoimmune disorder. It's huge on the rise in the last 20 years. And really it's because of adrenal fatigue. So people look at Hashimoto's as a thyroid issue, and it is, but it's more a thyroid that was so elevated by adrenals, fight or flight, survival. It was so elevated and leached so much from your metabolic self. Your thyroid is brain metabolism. And that's why people feel like they're kind of going cray-cray sometimes when their thyroid isn't, you know, stable. And it's also gut relation. And so there's this brain and gut connection with the thyroid in between, just like I say head and heart, and we speak in between. So yes, communications, when do you need to rest? When do you need to sit? When do you need to be active? Adrenals, you know? And then it took from the thyroid and went kaput, and you end up with hypothyroid, but it doesn't look like a typical hypothyroid. You know, people have a little more weight on them or more kapha, typical hypothyroid. So I just think this is important because the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, and your kidneys are the oceans of the body. Please get my Trina hydration. That is the first place to start. Always love to give advice. That is a game changer for kidney depletion. The oceans the tides are low. the tides are low, you're low blood pressure, and there's low blood volume filtering through those kidneys. And by the way, that blood filtering in those kidneys and that water volume is what feeds our heart. So that's why when you end up, the kidneys are out of water, the adrenals take over for us. How cool that we have glands that literally fight or flight. Unfortunately, their main function is passions and desires. Ooh, that's so much better. I want more passions and desires, and back to pleasure, right? I'm always going to bring it back to pleasure. Happy, happy, happy. I'm sorry, but it does keep me a little more happy, even when I'm stressed. So yes, there's something to this. Adrenals, are your passions and desires really being met? Maybe too grandiose and you need to take baby steps, or too grandiose and you need to think a little more realistic. But this is the name of the game. And why is this important in this question? The real question here was about hair loss, and I know that. But I can't just give you the plant for hair loss or make you a big old formula and you don't know what's really going on. So when your glass starts emptying out, if we're a glass of water, we're 60, 70%, we're glasses of water. When we start getting low tides and low blood pressure and low water volume, the top of our head is empty. It dries out. And that's why people get ringing in the ear, or they start clenching more, or they get receding gums, dry eyes, dry nose, and some people lose the juice in their hair follicles and their hair falls out from dryness. You got to be juicy, to have hair. And by the way, hair, nails, and bones are the byproduct. Oh, sorry. Hair, nails, and teeth are the byproduct of bones. So, hair starts falling out. We know that there's too much depletion and you're not getting enough nutrients to the bone. And that means your kidneys are low, your bones are dry, your kidney oceans are a little dry, and you're forced to run on your glandular self. I make the most amazing custom blend. And I mean, I can give you some plants and we'll put them in the link here. Palmarosa, spikenard, blue cypress, rose geranium. Palmarosa, spikenard, blue cypress, rose geranium. You could get those 4 and play with those and learn all about each one of them and look them up, and we can even, if you were getting them, you could put in the comment in the store, hey, please send me the pages for this. And we would send off a little more education. But those are so important because they calm down the nerves. They're anti-inflammatory because usually, that adrenaline fire rose and burned everything out. I mean, water evaporates eventually, and that's the dry out. So there's inflammation. We got to cool it down. I always say, oh, you need a bucket of water. You need a bucket of water, you know what I mean? And then the more depleted you've gotten, the more that bucket of water, you have to figure out how you're going to absorb the water. So you can keep it cycling with electrolytes. You can keep yourself grounded and really building up your core with probiotics, but you might need essential fatty acids and chia seeds in your water, putting celery seed on all of your food, putting sumac on all of your food, cumin on all of your food. Those are salty spices, and they have pure electrolytes in them. And then you can really start trusting that good salt straight from the earth and the bad salt that we know is bad. Why we don't want to eat it when we have problems with our blood. But actually our blood moves from electrolyte energy. And that's very important to know. So yeah, this is what I think of. And then I think of Mahanarayan oil, which I have the most beautiful Mahanarayan, and it smells like India. I even put that on the bottle. I mean, it just, it feels good, but it's just really nourishing and breaking in, and it's got sesame seed and it penetrates through that hair follicle and really binds that and starts growing hair. And I have absolutely seen this happen. Now there is hair loss alopecia, and there is alopecia areata, which is balding in spots. Those are a little bit different. I've worked with those. They were a huge part of my early estheology work because I was an esthetician that did hair, because I learned all of it in cosmetology school. And so that was one of my things. I gave a scalp treatment before every hair cut. Like I would do a full scalp treatment, massage and open it up and put the oils on there. Oh, I was so into rose geranium then. It has just stayed so top of my list for scalp. And those plants I just mentioned also are nervines. So you're not trying to like watch the rosemary, watch the birch, watch the peppermint. Those are dry. So that's for somebody who more needs brain and oxygen and wake up and blood flow. But really what I'm targeting was cypress, spikenard, blue cypress, spikenard, Tulsi's in there too, palmarosa, and rose geranium. Nerve, kidney, adrenal, regulating the glands. When the adrenals take over, they're the driest, hottest hormone in the body. And that becomes a huge problem because they usually are in that experience because they're dry and stressed, fired up. So then it puts out that response to match how you're feeling. Too bad it doesn't do the opposite, just built in, huh? But it does for the most part. If your kidneys are okay, it does do that. But once you start running on adrenaline, this becomes the issue. And this is why Hashimoto's is so prevalent now. It's adrenal fatigue. And it leached from the thyroid. And when the thyroid, then if this continues and the thyroid's affected, and I want to be honest, hair loss is usually where I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. It'd be really good to set up a program that's super about absorbing and assimilating water and eat out of a bowl because your food should be so wet, it would roll off a plate. You know what I mean? So really think just wet buckets of water and how am I going to absorb as much of this as I can? But, you know, hair loss tells me that the pancreas is starting to play out a little. You know, there might be a few things that just, you know, you need some good adaptogens and some oils on your scalp. And yeah, it can really make a big difference. But yeah, that's a lot of what I work with. Autoimmune disorders is like my jam. So I think that is a great question because so many people are suffering with Hashimoto's and not regulating their kidneys or even thinking kidney.
Mm-hmm.
I better zip it up. There's a whole bunch of questions today. I can't go any further. I'm so sorry.
There's so much to say. I know.
I do.
All right. So Mia has a three-parter. And first, wonders how to support the liver when there is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 2, how does cholesterol factor in or is considered as in for a Kapha Vata body type? And then finally, what is the Ayurvedic perspective on managing high blood pressure or fluctuating high-low blood pressure? Any thoughts on these?
Okay. So all three of these questions are related to one another. So I don't know that I'll just separate them, but I'll definitely layer into them so that, you know what's what. But they're all related because they're all liver, and your liver makes your blood, and manufactures your red blood cells and all kinds of, things that are liver and spleen related, which is blood and lymph. Your spleen is your immune organ. So, and Mia knows that. Really, that's what this comes down to. And then it goes into the idea that your liver, one of its jobs to make hormones and to also make this blood, the viscosity and the texture and the building blocks to build those blood cells, okay, is fat. And your liver takes proteins and it converts them into hormones and bile, which helps you break down fats later. We store that in our gallbladder. So there's this whole thing, and it also takes fats and turns them into essential fatty acids, which hopefully happens actually in the small intestines, because you have your bile in your gallbladder and it's your natural solvent. And if there's a saturated fat that needs to be turned into an oxygenated digestible fat, essential fatty acid, what we call omegas, because they're just like sound better. Omega, I need them. Fat, do I need fat? I don't know, but I need omega. So these EFAs, these oxygenated fats, your gallbladder takes the saturated fat and spits out bile and converts it into oxygenated digestible fats for the building blocks of your liver. So your liver literally breaks down any protein and a lot of fat molecules, and it makes all these building blocks for the body. So if somebody is having a liver issue without it being alcohol, we know that alcohol puts a lot of pressure on the liver. It has 600 jobs a day. And so that it was good that she put that idea in, that it's non-alcoholic, because that would be the first target, would be sugars and competing for fuel. So if you have too many sugars in your body, your liver cannot deal with that quick bounce around kind of wired child building block. But sugar still, carbs are still a building block. We need them. But too many of them freak out, and then you can't break down fats too. And so this is a good question. So, you know, the way I guess I would answer this is there's some things that would really make your liver a powerhouse. So first off, clean proteins. Clean proteins are anything that is not an animal protein, but some people include runny egg yolk because of the lecithin and digestibility, and fish. So clean protein is like knowing to put your, you know, grains and legumes together, you know, or seaweed is a complete protein, or like where can you get it in the plant world? And those are your cleanest protein fuels. So often I'll just put someone on seaweed capsules because I know they can't eat the amount that would count. Some people I want to supplement protein, just like protein power. I just want to supplement power and give them those minerals they need. And so, you know, kelp capsules, you know, are really a great thing here. And the other thing that has high protein, but not complete, but if you think it's more of a minerals, because minerals are also the thing that's going to break down fats or regenerate the liver just innately. So protein and minerals are literally going to give the liver the power it needs to convert those fats, turn them into oxygen, turn them into blood cells, and start manufacturing blood and manufacturing your hormones, and manufacturing enzymes, by the way, because your liver takes protein and makes enzymes. We call them enzymes, but their full name, if you want to get to know enzymes better, are protein enzymes. Keyword, because now you know that protein is the building block of an enzyme. So this protein deficiency is probably the number one thing I target. And then I put a lot of people on chloroxygen with cholesterol too, if I'm going to merge this into the next question, and we'll talk about cholesterol next, but chloroxygen by Herbs, etc. I don't sell it because it's everywhere. So I don't need to, you know, sell something that you can get, but it is brilliant. And in a cleansing time of year, like this last week for me, I'm kind of doing my hydration and my mineralizing to get ready to cleanse. And I did probably more like 4 dropperfuls of chloroxygen a day in my aloe, just to get like super hydrated, but start kind of getting things moving a little bit, sloughing off the plaque. And cholesterol, when you have too much of it in your body, is a fatty based plaque. And really, the thing I think people don't know about cholesterol, as I've learned to get to know it, is it's a hormone. So it's not like just a fat. It's a hormone that has a lot to do with your fat structure and your fat cells. But it's more about not accumulating, putting too much stress on your liver and putting too many fats and too many sugars together without enough clean protein. Really shifts your liver being able to use all those building block compounds and get them where they need to go. You know, so if you're taking in, you know, fats, you want to be able to just do that and let your liver run with that building block. And then you could think about some fruit or some sugar if you want, you know, healthy. Yes. You know, unprocessed is healthy. We don't want to think sugar is acidic. It's actually alkaline in nature. Raw. It's alkaline, raw. It's cooling in Ayurveda. We cook it just like fats. By the way, if we cook fats, they don't have any oxygen left, just like anything, you know? And if we cook sugars, we turn them into a more acidic base. So it's really us processing a lot of our food that is where we're getting weird with this word acidic, or, you know, wondering what we should eat or not eat. And, you know, we just need things sometimes a little bit more like, I'm gonna have more fats here, And then I have more room to do some quick energy sugars here. And then I'm going to go back to having my protein and fats in my meals. And that's how we go back and forth. And that's why we need fruit. It's part of the building blocks. We need those sugars. They're very important for cholesterol. And the more sour, the better. Sour is the key thing that breaks down fat in the body. But I will so give a shout out to cardamom and cinnamon, which are so nice as medicine. And ooh, Andrea, you were just telling me earlier this week, you're like totally rocking out the cardamom.
Oh, everywhere. And I'm telling everybody about it. It's like cardamom is my new best friend.
I love cardamom.
Yes.
Even when we're in India, we always keep some of the pods in our pocket. And I always say there's a lot of reasons for this. One is there's more oily food in India than I would ever eat. And I have to keep that stuff moving through because, you know, Vata Pitta Kapha has qualities and ideas of like how you are as a Pitta, and mine is actually oily. So I know a whole lot about this question because I come from a cholesterol family. And, you know, everything's about liver spleen for me. You can see from, you know, because the face is like a whole entire map. And you can see because I have a little spleen line that I don't love. Who loves their lines? But I'm like, oh, come on, can't you go away? I always like when people come in, they're like, can you help me with this? It makes me look angry. And I'm like, oh, it's funny because liver's anger and spleen is resentment. It is angry. They're like, I look angry. I'm all, yeah, I know. I have it too. I don't like to look angry.
Yeah.
But it's liver. And then that's a whole nother part of this question. So how much are you eating anger? Tracking your questions? How much are you consuming anger or taking it on or playing it out? And it's so normal you don't know. You know, I'm tracking that constantly because, you know, I have had all kinds of issues with anger in my past, and I've had to just figure out how to breathe through it and contain it and use it, you know, so it doesn't implode on me either. But I don't want to be imploding and exploding. You know, I want to use my focus in a more, you know, reasonable way. And that's the thing with the liver. If it starts working too hard, it's like you gave me fats and you gave me sugar and you also gave me a big old massive piece of meat protein. Like there's more fat in there. Come on. And then the liver's not happy. And it starts making all kinds of hormones, stressing out cholesterol. And then there's nowhere to ferry it out because your tissues are all, I don't need more fat. And it's like, no, you're going to take more fat because I got to get some pressure off here. And then that's literally how this works because we need cholesterol. It ferries healthy fats all over our body, which carry oxygen molecules. Very important little piece. So let me try to get to the last piece, and I'm so trying to make this be quick. I'm going to give a shout out to that cardamom because, you know, liver 101 is 6 drops of cardamom essential oil twice a day, or eating 10 cardamom pods, the seeds inside the pod. And you could just, you know, every once in a while chew, move through it. It's the number one thing for all kinds of odorous toxicity too, moving toxins out of the body, very important. And then go into the third question. And if I remember it correctly, it was more about high blood pressure and fluctuating blood pressure. So exactly. I kind of answered that a little bit on the first question. And if Mia is live with us right now, she's a really smart human. So she knows already that connection to hydration, but I'm just going to go back to that, you know, like, let's not forget that blood volume is based on water volume. Our blood pressure is based on the amount of water in our body. So tides are high at the ocean, more pressure in the environment. Tides are low at the ocean, less pressure in the environment. Same with us. So you can have adrenaline, stress, high blood pressure, and still be very, very depleted. In fact, the less juicy you are, the more it's just going to pitch. That's why people who are more dehydrated in menopause get more hot flashes, because there's no buffer for those, you know, the die off of those hormones and the release and the movement of those hormones. And so fire rises, you know, don't even like to think about it when I think about where I live. Love the rain right now. Love the rain. It's nice to, you know, be in the rain. I'm like, oh, it's nice and wet. Keep it coming. We need more. So high blood pressure, I always have to figure out if it's depletion, flared fire, like vata pushing pitta, as we call it. So vata affecting, dry making hot. You blow on a fire, because I have one going right here, it's gonna flare, So dry making hot, or could it be thick blood? And could there be too much cholesterol and too many fats that are floating around in the blood and making the blood thick? And then that pressurizes the body. And in that thickening and pressuring, and that's high blood pressure, that is not just stress related, but actually connected to too much kapha without enough pitta to flow. And I think part of that question talked about kapha vata, didn't it?
Yes.
Kapha vata. So this would be the most common. So if pitta's like, the liver's pitta, it's like, I need to move freely about the cabinet. I got to get around here. Like pittas do not like to be told what to do. They're like, I got this. And so that pitta can't move, and things thicken and get kapha, and everything pressurizes, blood pressure. And what happens is you don't have the flow in your body. Things are just pushing out and pushing up versus sweating out or blowing out and moving out up. And that would be the difference here. And a lot of times people get really kapha in their body and they don't, what's on the other side of a river if you have a dam? Nothing. Nothing. Air, ether, empty space. Like water's meant to flow. It is meant to flow. So that's kapha, what we call kapha blocking vata, or what we call kapha affecting vata. Kapha's so kind of stuck, water and earth make mud. So kapha's so stuck that there's no flow on the other side, and you're just with air. And that means the body needs to move. That reminds me of like lymph 101. That lymph river needs to move. It needs to meet the bloodstream. The lymph river meets the bloodstream. And that's salt scrubbing and trampoline and dancing. That's my favorite lymph, other than getting massage. I have a lot of students out there. Me as one of them. But, definitely, massage yourself, salt scrub, dry brush, exercise, move, laugh, dance, play, weed your garden. Those are all the things that literally keep our lymph moving, meeting to our bloodstream. And it really is just one of the most profound blood regulators I've ever found. And then I'm also going to take us back to electrolytes, but it's a big conversation. Let's listen for a minute. It's a really controversial conversation for me to talk about eating or taking salt with high blood pressure. So I just want to be 100% clear, on just the difference between refined sea salt, which is like, I'll scrub with that stuff all day long. It's like 40 cents a pound, you know what I mean? Refined sea salt, but there's no minerals, there's no electrolytes in there. It's halfway, it's not bleached. And then you got your iodized table salts. Those are horrid. Those cause so much inflammation. I do not think humans are really considering how much table salt is in wherever you go and whatever you buy in a bag. It is there. And that's including cheese, because it comes in a bag. So I want you to really think here. The harder the cheese, the more salt is in there. So I need to see the word sea salt, or I need to make it myself, or I need to, artisan and get the people in my area knowing, like, you use good salt, I'll send everyone to you, because we want electrolytes in our food. So we want unprocessed salt with the name of an ocean, right? That's the key. Celtic, Atlantic is my favorite. It's the one I'm so all about. It's the one I have. Oh, but I have a beautiful Peruvian pink salt that is like butter smooth on the tongue. Brilliant, hydrating, slightly flushing salt. But the idea is it's electrolytes. You had chloride and sodium in the wave, and you have magnesium and potassium on the earth. And when when water and earth meet, they make an electromagnetic crystal compound that is salt. And that is just really powerful. And it's the only edible crystal in the world. So there's just so much to say for like healthy salt is how I get people even, and I'm educating them so they can try it and see if it's working for them or not. But I can't even tell you how many people have been able to go to their doctor and get off their high blood pressure medication because they're regulating it themselves through looking at their anger, looking at their liver, considering those kind of fats and sugars and, how much protein and which ones are best. I mean, it doesn't take much, but this whole conversation is just screaming aloe. So I can talk about electrolytes and the cardamom, but it's screaming aloe, honestly. So, that would be something to think about as a daily, long-term. And then the more fat you eat, the more aloe you take. The more sugar I take in, the more aloe I take. When I'm doing really good, I can take a little less or even take a day off. So, but long-term ally for me, who is a pitta oily. I'm a pitta kapha. So this is a very pitta kapha related issue. Yeah.
All right. I also want to add something. I just found out your salt is one of the only salts that doesn't have microplastics.
Really?
And that's tremendous.
That is amazing. I've gotten that question, and obviously I don't want to know the answer, and I do want to know the answer, but it's more been one of those things where it's like, I have to, kind of like when I stopped selling Himalayan salt.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big money loss for me. That was a huge money loss. I'm an Ayurvedic center and I have Himalayan salt. Come on, from Fair Trade Tibet. That was brilliant. But then that fair trade left, and then all the salt was leaving, and then the energy felt so wrong when that salt came in, and so I just started researching it, and it'll be gone. We're mining the heck out of those mountains. That's precious. Millions of years in the making. Please avoid Himalayan salt. I'm so sorry for people who sell Himalayan salt to be saying this right now. Show me your fair trade, and I'm in.
Right. But yeah, like I had a canister of what I thought was brilliant sea salt, and then I looked at the country it came from, and that's one of the countries that their stuff has microplastics, but your salt doesn't, which is very reassuring.
Yeah, it's also one of the reasons I get the cypress flake, because that's known. I know that as part of one of the regions. And the other thing is that Peruvian pink is from a river. And so I know there's going to be less relation, you know what I mean? And that's more flowing water. Unfortunately the ocean is flowing, but it's a huge body, and that changes the way it processes. So I try to think about these things. I really do. It's so important.
Yeah, it really makes it complex, but that's where it's at. All right. Speaking of hydration, our next question is from Moisture Wiccan from Instagram asking, I'm wondering what DeAnna has to say about chronic acne in adult women, especially the emotional and metaphorical aspects of that.
Okay, well, the first thing is there is so much exposure relation to having a skin condition. And I would say the same for the hair loss. You're not just vain. you have a condition, and it looks different than the norm. And actually, even more than that, because who cares what the norm is? It looks different than maybe it has in the past. And it looked healthier before. And so it is truly exposing and very vulnerable, and it changes people. So I'm starting with the metaphysical. It changes people's boundaries, and they become people pleaser, even if that's not their innate. And they may even get frustrated with that, because then they're like, I said yes, 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 because I want to be loved. and I want to be seen. And it changes, you know, a whole relation to being able to just feel like you got your yeses, your no's. And I'm just going to give you the mantra that my dad gave to me when, you know, somebody, a boy, I told him I liked him, and he said, "You're fat. I would never hold your hand." We were very young, and he was like, "You're fat." And I was so mortified, and it was in, you know, front of people. And my dad, he was consoling me, and it was really sweet. And he said, "You know, honey," I was like, "What?" You know, he's like, "I got an idea for you." I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Take it or leave it." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Take it or leave it. Think about it. Somebody's either smart and, you know, like ready to meet who you are and can love you for who you are, and you take it, or they can't. And why spend any of your energy on that person and leave it? Like, take it or leave it." And it has become what has allowed me to like do this, start teaching 28 years ago, start seeing clients, even though you can see all my stuff just like I can see theirs. You know what I mean? It's not like I can hide. And so, you know, it was a really big moment. And so that's the medicine. The medicine is take it or leave it, and not with anger. That's got to be neutral. Take it or leave it. Like, it's okay. Like, even if a client doesn't love my approach, that's okay. That means they have the freedom to go find their person. If I'm not their person, they get to go find their person. So if they even felt safe enough to know that and just be like, "I don't know, that wasn't for me." Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, and I'm sure they got something, you know. So, you know, I want to put forward the exposure, the vulnerability, the boundary, the people pleaser. All of these things are there. And skin is the one tissue of 7 that actually takes in toxins and releases toxins. So sometimes somebody might be getting acne because their blood is too thick. So we're back to blood. Must be our thing today. But you know, it may be that there's toxins built up in the body, and the pores have gotten clogged, and they just never have been cleaned out and really opened up. And there's just a toxin that needs to happen, like people who maybe run chronically constipated. If you have, you know, stool sitting around for too long, I'm sorry, but it seeps into the bloodstream. This is how people get leaky gut. And it's a bummer, but it's the truth. And then they can get skin conditions, might be eczema, psoriasis. Some people, their body just knows acne in their genetics, which is the filling up and clogging of a pore. And that's just different than somebody who's getting like scaly protective skin layer over the pore, eczema. It's just a response that your body knows. And it's usually people who are more pitta get more acne. And acne is, you know, considered pitta. And skin is actually a pitta tissue. Muscle and skin are the 2 tissues of pitta. So it might be that there's not enough movement. We have to down and out, or things are going to push out. So we got it down and out. We got to get everything moving out of the intestines so it doesn't come out our skin. And, you know, I mean, our gut feeds our lymph to our blood, to our muscles, to our skin layers. And then bones, nerves, reproductive, deeper places get affected. Bones are a little further out. They're about, you know, number 5 of 7. So this is an important thing, just as far as like what really is happening here in its relation. Now, skin is also related to the pitta organs. Is your stomach breaking your food down, or is it slow? And if your food putrefying, you're making acidic, even if you ate alkaline, and that's toxicity. So stomach could be really low and things aren't moving. Liver, spleen, so that whole thing I just discussed, where the fats, the sugars, the proteins need to be considered. And that'll be liver, spleen, or get on some aloe. Then you have hormonal, there's 2 other. Then you have hormonal acne. Now it is usually along this glandular line of our jaw, because that's the glandular line. And, you know, but could be, but adult is the question. And the number one thing that really I think could be the kicker here is if it's cystic acne, and if it's repetitive acne, like always coming up in the same pore and really clogged and maybe sore, this is yeast overgrowth 101. And I hit on that years and years ago. And it has been a game changer for so many people. I have had the pleasure of seeing so many people with cystic acne, and it might be on their back, it might be on their butt, it might be on their face. So I have to ask if I think there's yeast. I have to ask a little bit, you know? And I've had the pleasure of seeing so many people's skin completely clear up, completely clear up. And I'll just tell you, two of them were teenagers, and they came to, I saw them both because they were suicidal. They were my clients, and I met them separately, but within a very short period of each other. And they were suffering so bad with cystic acne that they wanted to leave the world. That's how I learned about that exposure level. And that's a real thing when I talk to people with skin conditions. It's a real thing. So let's not take this too small of a thing, you know? And I started talking to them about give up sugar, because yeast lives on sugar. Oh my God, for a teen, for anybody. But I said 10-day challenge, you know, and I get them sweating and exercising, sweating, steam inhalations. You know, my cleansing tea is so brilliant for steam inhalation, or like stew it up, drink a couple cups and then put the rest in your tub. But steam inhalation, then put it in your tub. Like, get the most out of that medicine. You know, if you're going to make a tea, like, get the most out of it. But cleansing, that scrub too, the cleansing salt scrub, that could just really open things up and get those electrolytes in there and start moving things around. In my body mapping class that starts in April, I actually do the tongue. And I read everybody's tongue. They send me pictures, and then I read them and tell them what I see without really knowing them. It's really fun. And then I also do the face map. So I actually map it out, because then the next question would be, where is the acne? Because we have an entire nerve map that is our face. So where, you know, when someone says they have a skin condition, that's always my next question. But yeast overgrowth, 10-day challenge, get the sweat going on, get the steam going on, get on that cleansing tea. And then I love bergamot essential oil for just what I call the zit zapper, you know, and frankincense is good too. It's just a much more expensive zit zapper. Bergamot's cheaper, but it's yeast specific. And frankincense is a little bit more antiseptic, clear up, you like tonify clean out the pore and tonify it. So you could even do both. Like if you did 3 mils of frankincense to 7 mils of bergamot and just made yourself a little blend, and you could use probably a good 12 drops a day, and you could just kind of, wherever it is, you could just really spot use it. It's going in your bloodstream anyway. They're transdermal. They're volatile gases. They're not even essential oils. They're volatile gases. That's how they get into your bloodstream. So that would be antifungal, and it would be just like, how can I start seeing this? Sometimes when you steam with acne, it has to clear. So it might get worse before it gets better. I think it's just something to really consider, you know? Yeah. And you could do rosemary, you could do mint, you know, you could, you know, I like to do with red root with acne. Just get a little bit of red root at your local herb store or online. Red root would be amazing. You could probably get it in tincture too and just throw it in the boiling water. But yeah, those are the things I think of. Is it yeast? Is it hormonal? Is it intestinal plaque? And there's a gut related issue? Or is it more of a oily base, you know, back to liver? Those are the bigger questions. Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, we've got a viewer who asks that why is it that at age 48, he's urinating more and more volume at night specifically, almost more than a liter a night, and it's increasing. Wondering if it's kidney related, and wondering why it may only be at night.
Okay, well, kidney time, if you include bladder and all urinary tract, is pretty much around, you know, 3 to 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So if the kidneys are not that's why people siesta in other cultures, in the afternoon to reset their kidneys, reset their adrenal clocks, and they can stay up until 2. Just a different schedule. But it is traditional to do that siesta because it's kidney time of day. So it could be kidney related because it's like into the evening. And we know that people who drink too much liquids after dinner, who have kidney depletion. So we're back to electrolytes, we're back to trying to hydration. But it just shows how many people are dehydrated. I've been talking about it for years. I'm not going to get sick of talking about it because it's been my core of my health, and we are dehydrated. I mean, even just with the we're as dry as the world, we got the same things going on. So we really do have to look at this. So yeah, it could be kidney and you're drinking too many fluids and it tells us you're not absorbing them. This is true. The only other thing I'm thinking of since this was male is prostate. And I'm really wondering if there could be an early onset prostate issue, because we're talking about a liter, which is a lot. You know what I mean? Like that's a fair amount. So it makes me wonder if there's maybe prostate inflammation, which is so common. Or what if there's a little bit of a bladder infection, which men often have a harder time knowing? Because think about for women, if you're a woman out there, you know that if you've ever had one of those, UTIs, they make you pee like a racehorse, and it's more at night. It's more active at night after that kidney is tired. So I think it's not discussed enough about the male genito-urinary tract. We're just not talking like that is the same existence as a female reproductive. So there's the prostate, which can be accessed up in through the rectum, and it's very important. It's like at a little tiny groove right there, and it's a little gland. I know in Ayurveda, they actually milk the prostate once a year. And if you have a lot of inflammation, or if you sit a lot, like if you're a rickshaw driver, they'll actually milk the prostate more often. I think of bicyclists, I'm like, that'd be good quarterly. I said that actually. We saw a bicyclist 2 days ago, way up in the mountains. And I said to Scott, I was like, oh, his prostate, and he goes, yeah, I doubt he knows how to milk it. We started laughing because who talks about milking a prostate anymore? I do. Just concepts, but this is one of the things that takes the pressure off the prostate. And if the prostate is enlarged, it often needs to be released. It's not much unlike anal glands on a dog, and they often need to get expressed, or they start having urinary issues. They're very similar in function, actually. And then you've got urinary tract. So it's like, is there a slight little urinary tract infection? Is there a little bit of urethritis where the urethra is inflamed, or a little bit of sediment in the bladder? If it's a UTI, I am going to be all about flushing that stuff out. It's a bacteria, and it needs to be flushed like you're cleaning a pan, but you're cleaning your urinary. And so that's going to be like corn silk tincture, or just making corn silk tea. That's going to be the electrolytes and a lot of water, where you just pee and pee and pee. Even though you think you're peeing too much, you flush out all that bacteria. And it's actually easy to do with men because their urinary and their bladder and their urethra are just one easy plumbing. So they really can flush it more. And then the other question is the prostate. So not everyone's going to do the massaging. I want you to know where it is, though. You go right in very calmly, and you just massage, and it actually will start excreting liquid, and you'll be actually milking the prostate, and it'll take the pressure off, and it'll shrink back the prostate to a small size. It's a little smaller than a walnut. And if that stopped the urinary change, then we would know that was really the issue. So those are some of the ways we would look at the genito-urinary and answer this question. Is it just straight up kidney depletion? They're not absorbing water. They're drinking too much water in the afternoon or with dinner or after dinner, and then they just can't stop peeing. Is it a bacteria in the urinary tract? Or is it the prostate being enlarged, putting pressure on the bladder and urethra and causing release on demand? These are the questions that would make me, and now you can look at the history. So this person can now say, okay, which one of those do I have a history with? Or what is the prostate history in my family? And how important is it for me to target prostate at 42?
48.
Yeah, 48. Yeah, you need to think about prostate anyway, and if you sit all day, then that prostate usually is going to get stagnant and inflame. So these are the few of the things I'd be thinking of. Saw palmetto, these are things you can find in the herb store, but saw palmetto, is fantastic as a tonic for men, for all things prostate, glandular, and genito-urinary in general. You can get that in tincture and take 2 dropperfuls twice a day, or you can get capsules and take 2 capsules twice a day. But it really, truly is. And then that's where I would give a shout out to frankincense. Frankincense is kind of the number one. What I've been doing with my dad for years is frankincense lavender. And he has prostate issues. So that's one of the ways we've kept the inflammation down. And I also put him on with his saw palmetto. I put him on Boswellia, which is frankincense as a tea, as a powder. You can get Boswellia capsules. Only take 1 in the morning, 1 at night. Don't overtake that stuff. But yeah, frankincense would be 10 drops a day. A lot of people love that just really quick, like it doesn't go through the gut. Frankincense you can put on your tailbone and it'll just go right into your bloodstream and it'll be direct to the region where you're wanting to deal with the inflammation. But that is a really amazing plant for prostate care in general. Yeah.
All right. That is a really vital information. Okay. Leslie asks, for those of us new to Ayurveda, do you have advice for dealing with issues caused by decades of conventional dental work? So specifically wondering about cavities, root canals, and implants. Have you noticed connections between dental issues and other organs or systems of the body? Thanks so much for your time.
Okay. So I'll give myself a little shout out to start because I have a dental webinar. It's a 2-hour webinar and you can just find it right online. We'll link it up there, but that is my dental routine. And I come from a lot of, through the years, I've taken out 13 mercury fillings. So that's how many cavities I had through my childhood. Everything stopped at 21 when I started taking care of myself. When I really started saying, I can't just live with cavities forever. I'm going to be full of fillings. This is ridiculous. And I was. So, lots you can do. And that webinar will give you and I even put it in like a little protocol, I have my little plate right next to my sink and I have all kinds of things there, So remember that rebuild is everything. Rebuild. So you need to strengthen the gums, strengthen the bones. And then if you're getting cavities and things like that, well, then we know that there's something acidic in the gut. Like I want to make the connection dental to stomach and to the gut. Like this is the beginning of our digestive tract. And if something is in the stomach and if your food, this is the most common thing, the food putrefies because the stomach doesn't have all of the components it needs. Hydrochloric acid, pepsin, and flora, bacteria, which is a little lining. It's a wet, juicy coating lining where all your immunity lives. And if those three are not able to work together with the food that you put in or the emotion that you eat with it, because that you can't separate those, right? Thoughts, mouth, talk, in. It's all connected. And if that putrefies or goes really cold and gets rancid or whatever, because there's lots of things, vata, pitta, kapha could happen. It could dry out. It could get flared. It could get mucousy and boggy. Okay. And that then translates to the health. And cavities are known for acidic. Too much acid going in or too much food putrefying and turning to acid, overcooking in your compost pile of your stomach. And then all that fire rises up and starts pulling toxins out. So I'm all about the tongue scraper because that's how toxins first surface before they even become a cavity. So people have coating on their tongue and have issues going on that need to be addressed because coating on the tongue is toxicity. That stuff has to be pulled off regularly, tongue scraper twice a day, to really keep you from getting toxins that are then going to start migrating up into your tooth. So tongue scraper all the way. I have copper and I have stainless steel. Stainless steel is for people who need to cool everything down and you think there's pitta, like cavity. And copper is for the person who thinks they have really low stomach metabolism and they want to rev up that stomach a little bit and activate it. And so that's why we have both. You know, one's heating, one's cooling. Which one do you think is heating? Look at stainless steel and look at copper in your mind's eye. Which one is cooling? Which one is heating? Yeah, everything tells us. The color of a gem tells us, the metal tells us, the plants tell us, everything tells us by shape and structure and color and taste. And that's why we keep the copper and stainless steel together. And that's such an Ayurvedic foundation, since that was part of the question, you know, just hot or cold, looking at Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 great elements, ether, air, fire, water, earth, make our 4 seasons. We have 5 elements that make 4 seasons. And those seasons are winter cold, you know, spring dry until it gets, you know, wet and changes, hot to summer, and then wet to fall. And that's how we run. We run hot or cold and see which one and do the opposite, you know, and then wet or dry. So you feeling sticky and gunky, wet, or are you feeling depleted and empty and taxed and stretched, dry? And then we put them together. So right now I'm feeling more cold, which is unusual. I could probably eat a few chiles today and get away with it. I think I know what's for dinner. But, you know, I'm running more cold and I'm running more dry. And I'm usually more hot and wet. So I have to treat myself a little bit differently, you know, but not disturb my normal who I am. And that's kind of how we are always looking at things. But this question is brilliant in the way of like, our emotions are invested in our mouth. And then we have to think about what's above and what's below, head and heart. But here we're talking more emotions and stomach, but still head and heart, above and below is this whole relation to like how we put information out and how we put consumption in, you know, and all the things that are our emotions and habits and just what's playing out there. And there could be one of those habits that's just really there affecting your teeth more than you realize. Like eating chocolate in the afternoon and not brushing the teeth. That's a lot of sugar and a lot of compounds in the body that are more, you know, somewhat, you know, depending on how much milk and sugar's in there, you know, the darker the better, less sugar. But, you know, that could be, or like loving hard candy and you're just not thinking, or chewing gum and just not, you know, these things become just, you know, us getting by and working and trying to cope. And so just what are those go-tos that end up in your mouth? You know, for me, it's the chip. And then I have to realize how much am I trying to grok, as Stargazer Lee has taught me to say. hanging out with her so much now I can't, like, how am I not going to use a Lee phrase, but like, how much am I grokking through this? It's like I'm obviously trying to work out some stuff because I'm going for some crunchy, like, and I'm like, okay, where's my brain? And I've noticed it's not when I'm angry, because I checked in on that being pitta. I was like, is that anger? And I was like, no, that's a whole lot of, because I do health equations all day long. I'm a detective. I'm a health detective. I think my body's like, let's crunch that out of there. So now I've got a new one that I told Scott I'm doing. And now this is what I'm doing. I get in my car, or I start leaving from what I'm doing or whatever. And I go,
Get it out.
and then I'm like, yeah, pull them out, pull all the words out. I'm crunching on my chips right now.
Get all the crumbs out.
But I'm not kidding. I mean, I know I'm looking crazy, but it's the truth. I have found ways to be like, I think those are words stuck there. I'm trying to crunch words out. It's a lot of words, a lot of things to track now. We want to say things well. We want to be articulated. I want to be respectful. I want to be honorable. I want to speak people's languages to help them. I don't want to give them just, I don't want to put anyone up against anything other than empowered. So, those are things I think integrous, but I'm holding them. So I got to be like, I was integrous. Now I can pull that stuff out of there.
Yeah.
But think about it. Our dental is connected to communications. It is connected. It's directly connected to our communications and how we speak. And if you even feel like there's some languaging that is not appropriate, or you go to places that you feel horrible about, how are you going to feel that before you do that? And I've had to learn this one. So I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know if this is who you are that asked this question. But, just like, what is my languaging? Women in my family were allowed to blah, 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 call out somebody, blah, 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 so I'm glad I have a partner who's kind of like, excuse me, what? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't very nice, was it? Okay, let me rephrase that. With someone who we allow each other to rephrase. So instead of getting triggered, we more usually say, oh, excuse me, would you like to rephrase that? And it's the way we've learned to play with what we heard and how we're going to start responding. Get that? We're talking dental. We are talking dental right now. And cavities are toxin. It's a bacteria. So I have to think about if I, what's the toxic language coming at me or coming out of me if I'm getting, cavities, or what that looks like. And it might just be your stomach, but something's there. Yeah. So there's so much to this. Oh, we also, Andrea found an amazing, you want to talk about that for a minute? Because I brought it up and then she found it.
Well, DeAnna was talking about how the teeth and where they are related to the organs, which I've heard about the tongue and the ear and the face, but I've never seen anything about the teeth. I'd even heard about the eyeballs, but yeah, teeth. So let me post this link for you. It is utterly fascinating. It comes from this website. I just did really a simple Google search. But this site has some tremendous graphical elements and layouts. It comes from Chinese acupuncture. So it's about meridians, which are very closely tied to the energy lines known within Ayurveda. So let me put this link up. I highly recommend getting into this, even if you're not dentally oriented. It's utterly fascinating. And I mean, I can imagine that what it can show you is, if you've got an issue on a tooth, like a buildup of calcium or a cavity, and you look at the organ that it represents, we're talking, this is where the toxin is coming up. So do I have that right?
Yes, and it's brilliant. Yeah, and it might be a toxin where the toxin's coming up. So they're the nerve lines, and so meridians are not made up. This isn't a made up map. They're your nerve lines, autonomic nerves. And yes, if you have a cavity or a bacteria, then you have toxins coming up through. The nerves are speaking to you about toxicity. If you have receding gums through one of those teeth, you may know that vata is more speaking to you, and there's more depletion, right? Dry up, receding, and going cold and dry is constrictive. And so receding gums are going to show you depletion in that organ. And if you have a whole bunch of plaque buildup, and you're starting to notice that you're just getting, plaque layer, then you know that there is a little bit more kapha, or if you're starting to get those little pockets of fluid, because we have lymph nodes between every single tooth. So I can't say enough about, here's your finger, put it in your mouth. Right? I'm not kidding. And like, you need to massage, and you massage down. You can go across, but you want to massage down, because I want to keep my gums connected to my tooth, and I want to push out any little bits, and note bits come out. So I had something under there just right now. Yep. And there's a lymph node between everyone and the inside. There's a lymph node between every single one. So you can really get in there and look at, Andrea's in there. Is that a gua sha, or is that just?
It is. It's one of those
Exactly.
basalt gua shas. I've never done this. Here I am doing it for the first time in public.
It's so good.
Cool.
It feels incredible. And guess what? If you're using your finger or a gua sha in there, you really are, like, remember the gua sha, the Chinese gua sha is connected to that map that we just showed you. And it's all about cord cutting. It's all about letting go of things and like letting out toxins. So like those words can be massaged out, as well as clearing your gums out. But there is so much we can do for our own dental. And there's healing to do, because part of this question was kind of trauma related from past history. Like already had tons of work done, already has had a lot of work. So there's trauma that needs to be massaged in there and loved, and just you get to know your mouth. Where is there, if you had a root canal, often I tell people, you got to look for scar tissue up in here. It's going to feel weird and like a whole different kind of ridge than anywhere else. And you need to massage that down and soften that up. And yeah, I'm a huge personal advocate of dental care. I have dental trauma, orthodontist trauma. Horrible, man. Just saying. And not good. And so I was like, never again. But I totally believe I need to take care of my mouth and my teeth. And so that's what I've been doing. So as I've told people, and I think I say in that webinar, that was at 21 when I was like, that was wrong. It hit me. I'm like, that was wrong. And, and so I was like, I'm never going to dentist again. And then it really, that's when I learned acupuncture. I went to an acupuncturist because my wisdom teeth were coming in. And I had to trust somebody, and I needed someone to look at them, but I wouldn't go to a dentist. And I built up this great relationship with him. And he was the first person who showed me like gua sha and how to use it and different things. And he ended up having a dentist come to his office and pulled my teeth with Chinese anesthesia. So I have a whole interesting, it was like, it turned my trauma around so huge, because all of a sudden I had two men, a dentist and an acupuncturist I trusted, and they were like, let's do this with this anesthesia. I mean, I'm not kidding. I had Chinese anesthesia liquid, and I felt nothing, and I was totally awake, which was a little freaky. But I was kind of like, no, I'm going to let this be trusting of people are good and some people are not. And I'm going to trust that there are some good and these are good people and they're going to take care of me. And I healed in 3 days and they took all 4 of my wisdom teeth out on 1 day. I was
Wow.
no swelling. Like it was amazing.
That's great.
So let your visit to the dentist also be a way of healing, like letting them help you if you love them and you're safe now. Like really let that be a healing. But I never went back to a dentist until I was, I think it was my 45th birthday. I think you know this. I went to dentist
I remember that.
I went to my dentist in Tijuana for the first time since I was 21. They did not believe me. 20 years, no cleaning, no dentist, no cavity. I was like, no, really. I did it myself. So that's the webinar. You can do it yourself.
Okay. Our next question popped in from Martha here. She's here right now. Yay. It may have been covered. So let me just pose it to you. She's wondering about suggestions for liver gallbladder congestion. That may have been something you've kind of mostly covered earlier this morning.
Well, I think the cardamom fits in there. The aloe fits in there. And I'm a huge fan of 10 leaves a day. So you can buy them in the store or grow it easy, even in a pot. But 10 mint leaves a day, chewed, great for dental too. But man, so good for liver gallbladder. Those are like my liver gallbladder go-tos because they're gentle. I can do them long term. They're not going to throw me in a detox, but they're going to keep me clean and cut through any grease I might come across. You know what I mean? Or clear those sugars in a really simple way. So mint, aloe, cardamom are my go-tos. But I also just want to prep you that that's kind of everything we're doing in going into spring cleanse. So Martha, you like, I feel like I gotta meet you or something. You know, maybe I haven't, I don't know, you know what I mean? But I'm enjoying spending all this time. And we're going to be going through spring cleanse. And my idea of spring cleanse is you spend the 3 months of spring working your way into a cleaner body. And you stay hydrated and you can go to work, you can function, and it goes through. And so we're taking you through that. And Andrea has been helping me, you know, really dial that in. So we go through a month of hydration and then intestinal clearing, and then we get into the nitty gritty liver gallbladder cleanse. But you do not want to cleanse your liver gallbladder until you're hydrated, and you don't want to do it until your intestines are clear. And the reason for that is like the liver and the gallbladder have to spit out into the intestines to get out. So if your intestines are full and then you ask your liver to give it up, it's going to flush out a whole bunch of stuff through skin and it's going to spout out the mouth. The fire's going to move in all kinds of spreading in the wrong way. So you need those intestines to down and out, clear. So when that liver relinquishes control and gives up those toxins, it has a complete plumbing to clear it out effortlessly. So that's what I'll be taking everyone through. And I think it starts coming up because I think we started it for spring. Yeah. So, yeah. So just keep hanging out and you can do this with me because I'm doing it too. I do it each spring. Yeah, but it'll start with the trying to hydration. So if you want to get going now, you can start getting hydrated early so you could move into intestinal clearing by the end of the month.
Soak that pan.
Huh?
Soak that pan.
Soak the pan. You got to soak the pan if you're going to clean the pan. And then you got to clean the pan if you want your, CEO to relinquish. Leader. You want the leader to back off and let your body do its thing. You clear the pans. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've got time for one more. We'll have to take one and apply it to 2 weeks from now. Really happy to have so many questions and wish we had all the time in the world, but thanks for sticking with us. So this last question comes from Kyra, and Kyra's asking about neuropathy in the feet. She's researched and doesn't have any of the risks like diabetes or a sedentary lifestyle, and already does a lot of the prevention like physical activity and massage and diet, but is thinking that she's experiencing neuropathy because she has symptoms of red swollen spots and tingling, and wonders your thoughts on that.
Okay. So yeah, red, tender spots and tingling are a sign of neuropathy. Neuropathy is when the blood lines down to your circulation, down to your feet, are not making a full cycle. So the first thing we have to think of is like, is it that you're not getting enough nutrients to the feet? Or is it that it's getting to the feet and there's a line upstream coming back towards the heart that is not able to flow? So we do want to think about the bloodstream, the cardiovascular system, and the fact that neuropathy is telling you that your feet are pretty far away and they're not really, the stream isn't flowing the way it should. So anyone can get neuropathy, that is for sure. But the most common, something I've seen that most people who come in and say, I think I have neuropathy, even if they have this spotting, and all these other symptoms, and hello, Kyra. The main thing I have found is that they're starting or they have plantar fasciitis. And I'm going to really wrap up what that is in one big nutshell, which is it's one huge adhesion band across your arch that really is connected usually to the primary kidney point on the bottom of your foot, which is right at the bottom of the ball of your big toe. And then it runs across the arch like a big kind of wound up rope. Yeah, so it takes a lot to break them up, and it's attached to the top of the heel at the end of the arch. And it's just this big ropey band that starts attaching there and trying to secure your arches. So you really might need to look at arch support. Are your arches falling? Because it happens when you're older. I thought I had gout 3 years ago, and I even got lab tests, which, I only do when I can't handle something. I couldn't handle that. Thought I had gout. I did not. And then my dad was like, well, don't you know we have fallen arches? It happened to me too. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it really could be a real thing. That would be something I would certainly consider. If your shoes are too flat and you're just used to wearing whatever, it could be playing it out more circulation wise. But that adhesion underneath there runs right across a main bloodline that runs to your big and your first and your second toe, and then flow back up. And they're connected to the inside of your leg, which is liver, spleen, liver, kidney. And that, so these are the things I think of. It's like, okay, we might be back to hydration, but Kyra, come on, we've known each other how long? Like, I know you might run dry, but I know you know how to stay hydrated. I mean, geez, I'll eat in your kitchen any day. So you know what I mean? Like, I know your lifestyle. It's very active though. So are your arches handling it? Are your shoes supporting your arch? And do you need to get in there with the tennis ball, or do you need to get in there with a gua sha and start scraping that off the kidney point? So if you have more scar tissue, or you find something right at that ball of your toe at kidney, then there is a hydration. There's something with kidney going on. We get drier the older we are. So, it's an upstream battle anyway, so it could be. Or if the ropiness is more running across, if this is true, but I can almost see it in your arch right now. And I know your feet. It's kind of interesting. I'm having a vision, for real. I'm having a vision. And if you have more of that scar tissue through the arch itself, then I would say that it probably is the arch, and that's why you're building up that adhesion there. Body's trying to protect you. And then if you have more scar tissue, or if you find even gravel, or you find just a lot of thickening at the heel, at the end of the arch, then I would be thinking more about your intestines, and just, are your intestines completely moving, just because the heel of the foot is actually the intestines. Yeah. So these are the things I think of. And then I have another thing I think of, which is, I first started by saying this bloodstream. So it has a lot to do with the hip. So all of the main channels that have to run down to your foot have to go through your hip and come all the way back up here to the subclavian vein as a lymph supply. And you could be getting more, if we're sitting more this year, I am, you could be getting compacted lymph nodes behind your knee. Everybody listen to this. This is a huge problem. The more you sit, or the more you don't know to pump your knees and the back, the soft of your knee and the back, if it's mounding or sore or glunky gunky and kind of sticky, those need to move. Those need to move, because they are the lymph nodes that run through and meet the blood supply down to your feet. So I want you to check your hips, front and back, all around, and your pelvic floor. And I want you to check the back of your knee if you're sitting more. And I just have a feeling, there's a flow issue upstream, right? And I feel like there's some adhesions building up around your arch. So before we kind of claim a disease, because neuropathy is literally a disease state, before we kind of go into the big word neuropathy, I would more check those things out and see if you can't get your blood flow back. And you'll know by color, and the spots will leave and it'll change. Yeah. I'm having edema in my ankles, like where I wear socks, and then there's like a little marking, and I'm not taking in more salt. My diet's been really good during the pandemic. But I'm like, whoa, I have never seen this. And I'm even kapha, but I just don't get edema in my ankles. And I know it's because I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting more.
Yeah.
Even when I was teaching in person. So I think it's getting to us. So check those things out. I think it'll help. And many people, I hope there's people out there listening, because the back of the knees, it changes everything for the function of your feet. Yeah.
That is really good advice. I'm going to take a look at that myself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been another fantastic Thursday morning. So pleased with all these amazing questions. Thank you so much for bringing your truth and your integrity to be with us this morning. I want to make sure that you're all aware that in 1 week, DeAnna is going to have a free webinar called My Elemental Profile. And this is the foundational information that you want to know to really target maximum effective self-care. Like if you're just kind of throwing a bunch of things at yourself and not really sure whether any of it's sticking, you got to know your elemental profile. That's the first thing. And this is free. It's 2 hours of some amazing information and QA time. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's online, so come one, come all, and it's some vital information that we want everybody to hear and to take part in. So that's happening. My body mapping is going to be starting up in April. So if you missed it this past January, it's coming around again. And it's a tremendous class. I have the privilege of peeking at some of the comments and seeing the participation in the videos. And it's really sweet to see how people are growing and changing. And it's like a retreat of hope. I've been thinking about it. It's a lot of hope. And it's real, and it's what we all need right now for sure.
All the things you need to know to just start taking care of yourself.
Exactly. So
that means take care of each other. If we take care of ourselves, we start taking better care of each other. It's not
Exactly.
selfish.
Exactly.
It's self-care so that we can sustain each other. Very important.
Yep. Exactly. This is the stuff we need. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Those are really great places to see videos and wellness tips and just learning more about what we do and how you can get some support along the way. Send questions along to us at info@dhyana.com and make sure to subscribe to our mailing list to get some really cool tips as well. All right. I think that'll do it for today.
Thank you all for joining me and wanting to hear what I have to say. And I can make a promise. I will always keep it real and authentic. And I will just give you the truth that comes out of me in the moment. And hopefully that is helping so many people to just feel empowered to feel better and then see what happens after feeling better. Really, honestly, we have to figure out how to feel better. If you want a better life, you're going to make sure you feel better to really have that. So thank you so much for trusting me. Yeah.